Welcome to 3 Points, the show where NBA insiders address the three biggest topics in the league right now. Joining me this week for our very first show, Sam Amick from The Athletic and my colleague over at Sports Illustrated, Mr. Howard Beck. All right, guys, let's jump right in with the first topic. Ben Simmons is back in Philadelphia on Tuesday with the Nets in town to take on the 76ers. Simmons is averaging career lows in scoring, field goal percentage, assists, and rebounds, though he has had a pretty impressive last 3 games. While The Athletic reported last week there has been growing frustration in Brooklyn with Simmons' availability and level of play. He is, however, playing his best basketball of late, coming off a 22-point performance in that win over Memphis, the third straight game where Simmons has scored in double figures. Meanwhile, James Harden, who Simmons was traded for, is averaging 22 points this season, but has played just 9 games due to a foot injury. Sam, you were part of that Athletic reporting with Ben Simmons. It has been about 9 months since the trade. Are you ready to declare a winner?
I feel fairly confident, even with Ben Simmons' play, saying, Chris, that I think Philly got the better end of this deal. Now, listen, Ben's bright spots, if you will, the last couple of games are a welcome sign for the Nets. He has had his best game of the season in 3 consecutive games. He also, it has to be noted, has 2 more years on his contract. He's younger. He could be part of their future. But the problem is, big picture for Brooklyn, their strategy and their direction, if you will, is off the tracks. You know, Kyrie Irving, unpredictable, unreliable. Kevin Durant, uncertain about his future. Ben Simmons was part of that. And now if they end up ultimately pivoting, then I think it puts them in a tough spot with Ben, even with his recent play. Philly, meanwhile, is going to need somebody next to Joel Embiid during his prime. And James Harden is up next summer, but he's expected to stick around and be that guy. And they still, I think, have a higher ceiling.
Look, at the time of the trade, I think a lot of us felt, and I do still feel, this was a trade that was not only necessary for both teams unloading their respective headaches, but probably good for both teams. Now, 9 months later, do we have a definitive conclusion on that? I don't think so. I think it's way too soon to know, especially since Ben Simmons really has only played about a month of games for the Nets. But Ben Simmons does look like he's starting to round into form. He's starting to look like the Ben Simmons who was all NBA for the Sixers just a few years ago. And if the Nets can get that guy for the foreseeable future, it could change quite a bit about how we feel about the Nets, not just this season, but for the next several years, because Kyrie Irving, clock's ticking on his Nets tenure. Kevin Durant, don't know how long he's going to want to stick around if Kyrie Irving is gone, which he will be by the end of this season at the latest. And so you need somebody to be still building around an all-NBA type talent. If Ben Simmons is still that guy, and lately it's starting to look like he is, that's huge for the Nets. On top of that, the Nets do have 2 future first-round picks coming from Philadelphia. So the Nets still have the opportunity here to absolutely win this trade. But in the near term, I'm with Sam. I think I'm leaning Sixers because right now, Harden and Embiid look like a potential finals contender when at their best, which I know they haven't been because of health, but they have the chance to do it all right now. Whereas the Nets, I still have a lot of doubts in the near term.
Yeah, if you had asked me a week ago who had won this trade, I would have said the Sixers by a landslide. I mean, Harden, despite the fact that he's not the James Harden that we're used to seeing in Houston and previously in Oklahoma City, is still a high-level guy. And this season, through 9 games, as I mentioned, he's averaging about 22 points. But over the last 3 games, Simmons, to your point, Howard, has looked really good. 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Those are his averages over the last 3. And more importantly, the body language just looks a lot different. He's playing a lot more confidently. Now, the Nets have a lot to figure out with their personnel. You simply cannot play Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton together for extended periods of time. Neither one of those guys is a remote threat to shoot the basketball from beyond like 5 or 6 feet, and you can't have guys like that out there on the floor in crunch time situations. But the way Ben Simmons is starting to come around, I'm starting to wonder if the Nets may be able to salvage this after all. On top of that, while I do like Harden as a player still, they're just 16-11 in Philadelphia with Harden and Embiid playing together. They were beat 4-2 in the second round by Miami. They haven't accomplished anything up until this point, and I think the jury very much is still out on James Harden and his tenure with the 76ers. All right, the Lakers are 5-10 after Sunday's blowout win over San Antonio. LeBron James, he remains out with a left adductor strain, while the Lakers rank in the bottom third-ish area in the NBA offensive and defensive rating. On the positive side, Anthony Davis, he had his best game of the season against the Spurs, while LA may have found something with Russell Westbrook in this new sixth man role. Guys, the Lakers continue to have two options. Make a deal that includes one or both of the 2027 or 2029 picks in an attempt to salvage the season, or ride this one out and hope that next summer yields better options. Howard, I'll start with you this time. What should the Lakers do?
See, now this one is really simple, and it comes down to this. You have LeBron James, and that's it. You have LeBron James. You have LeBron James in what is left of his still elite years before he has to retire. That day will come sometime soon, I believe, in the next few years. And until that day comes, you are absolutely obligated, morally, professionally, doing right by the basketball gods, however you want to frame it. You cannot waste any years of LeBron James's career. So if you have to trade one of the future picks, both of the future picks, somebody's, new puppy, I don't care what you have to do, put them in a trade that gets you immediate help, because you cannot have a LeBron James season go for naught. That's happened too many times already since he's been in LA. One major exception, the year they won the championship, but the other seasons have been pretty grisly. So I don't think there's any question here. You do whatever you have to do to put a competitive team around LeBron right now. And it, by the way, does not have to mean it makes you a contender tomorrow. There is no one trade that's going to make the Lakers a contender tomorrow. But there's a big difference between being a viable playoff team and being a team that's so bad that you might end up sending Victor Wembanyama to the New Orleans Pelicans.
Listen, Howard, first of all, I'm going to lock my doors. Don't touch my puppy. I don't know what you're talking about there. But the Lakers, I do think, need to wait. So you did not answer the question of what they're getting in return for their one pick or their two picks. To me, you look at this summer, they will have near max salary cap space because Russell Westbrook's contract comes off the books. They will have more options. As we know, and this doesn't necessarily need to be a summertime thing, but these next few months might jar loose some elite players around the NBA. This is speculation from rival executives, but you're talking about the chatter that always is going to surround Bradley Beal in Washington. The Bulls and some of their struggles. You look at DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine having a hard time of late. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which the Oklahoma City Thunder claim and swear and insist is going nowhere, is a guy that certainly every other GM in the league would love to get their hands on. The Lakers have one crack at this when it comes to making a big-time deal that takes them to the next level. And their fear, which I think is justified, is the idea that you make a deal that only helps you incrementally. You empty the cupboard when it comes to your assets. And when you get to this summer, LeBron is looking at you saying, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we should have waited. Now, that's easier said than done. The idea that they would, unofficially punt on this season from a human standpoint is very challenging. Anthony Davis not getting any younger. Forget about LeBron. Russ, like you said, playing pretty decently. And in the middle of that, of course, is Darvin Ham trying to make things work in his first year. So that is a tough ask, but unless they get a trade, I think that really makes them better. I think they have to be patient.
Yeah, you guys both make strong points with respect to the value of doing a deal like this. I just go back to something that Howard said at the top. You just can't waste seasons of LeBron James. He'll be 38 years old in just about a month, and who knows how long he's going to be able to play at a level that would enable him to be the 1 or 1A guy on a championship team. And all the names you mentioned, Sam, I would want a piece of them. I would absolutely love to hold on to get a Bradley Beal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes a ton of sense on that Lakers team. Damian Lillard could be on that list, depending on how the Blazers season goes this year. But even if it's a deal that only makes you moderately better, I think the Lakers have to roll the dice. Now, the deal, obviously, that we're all kind of fixated on at the moment, or at least most in the NBA are, is the Indiana deal with Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. And Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, I'll be the first to tell you, that does not make that Laker team a true title contender. But the idea of putting a perimeter shooter like Buddy Hield around LeBron James, a lot of shooters have had a lot of success playing with LeBron James. The idea of putting a center who can shoot threes alongside Anthony Davis, well, it creates more spacing, and it also takes playing the center position away from Anthony Davis. I like that idea for the Lakers. And if I'm Rob Pelinka and I'm thinking about this, why am I fixated on holding on to picks in 2027 and 2029 if there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to be there if this team goes south this season and they can't get a deal done sometime next season. So I'm in favor of doing a deal that may not make them a title contender, but it does push them a little bit closer to being one of the top teams in the West. All right, one of the most surprising stories of this early season has been the Golden State Warriors. The defending champs, who are off to a sub-500 start in this first month. James Wiseman, the highly touted former number 2 pick, has been sent down to the G League. The defense has collapsed, and Steve Kerr is being asked about benching Klay Thompson. Thompson did go for 41 on 60% shooting in a win over the Rockets on Sunday. Sam, you are out in the Bay Area. Should Golden State be a little concerned, very concerned, or not at all concerned by this sluggish start?
I think very concerned, because it would be one thing, guys, if you had the same cast of characters from last season, the champions, who were struggling this time around. It's not. Of course, you have the foundation: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Jordan Poole, the young buck who has found his way, recently extended. But you lost Gary Payton II. You lost Otto Porter Jr. You lost Emmanuel Bjelica. To, I think, the casual fans, if you will, they might not even remember those guys' contributions last season, but they were significant. And now we are seeing the two-timeline approach that Warriors owner Joe Lacob has been such a huge fan of laid bare. And this is why so many organizations don't even try to go down this kind of a road, because it's incredibly hard to groom and develop young talents like James Wiseman, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, while also making the most of future Hall of Famers like the Warriors are stocked with. So I think they're very concerned. They're 19th in net rating right now, defensively 24th, and that has been their calling card throughout the entire dynasty. Draymond Green, their defensive leader, playing pretty well. Steph Curry playing like an MVP. You mentioned Klay's struggles, but he is coming around. The starters are not the problem. It's everybody past that top 5 and really maybe top 6 once Jordan got his game going that they have reasons to be concerned about. But I think there is a lot of concern right now.
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody should downplay the concern when a defending champion starts off the way the Warriors did. But Sam, one of the last things you said, I think, is maybe the most important for the optimistic side of this, which is that the starting 5 is still great. Now, the bench is a serious, serious problem. But I think, the charitable view would be Jordan Poole, he's going to come around. We've seen what he can do as a young player. He'll find his footing. After that, it's really a big question of, can you get at least one of or two of Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman to play at a level where you can rely on them as rotation players and to withstand or sustain the defense when they are out there? They did lose a lot of veteran talent over the summer. A lot of that was kind of by design because they were trying to accelerate the development of their young guys. And yeah, the dual track 2-timeline thing in the moment looks like it's kind of backfiring on them. That's hard to say when they just won the championship in June. And at the time, we all thought, well, this is brilliant. Yeah, I guess they can pull it off. But right now, I have to apply the LeBron James principle. You have Steph Curry, and Steph Curry is still playing like an MVP right now. You cannot waste a season of his career. Now, they're not as far down the standings as the Lakers have been, not struggling nearly as much, but there's only one goal if you're the Warriors. That's tack on more championships and extend this run with Steph Curry as long as you can. And if that means trading the young guys and abandoning the dual track approach, I think they got to do it.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm with Sam on this one. I'm very concerned about what I've seen from the Warriors in the first month of the season. The numbers, as Sam alluded to, are just daunting in a way. A team that gave up 105 points per game last season is now giving up 117. A team that was 6th in the NBA in rebounding last season is now 25th. A team that is not defending the pick and roll, not defending in transition, giving up more second chance points than they did last season. I'm concerned about that. And I'm concerned for those same depth reasons that Sam was talking about. Like the top 6 guys, Howard, as you said, are really, really strong still. Steph Curry might be the front runner right now for MVP. But in years past, they have been able to supplement those stars with role players that made a lot of sense. For years, it was Andre Iguodala. Last season, they had Otto Porter and Gary Payton II. This season, they have expected those younger guys to step into bigger roles. And at this point, it has not happened. Wiseman, as we said, is gone. Kuminga and Moody have not done that or shown they can do it up until this point. It may be a developmental season overall for a guy like Wiseman, who may not contribute at all to this team, at least not at a high level this year. I think this is a team that needs to make a deal. Now, I don't know what that deal is going to look like. I don't know what that deal would involve them giving up. But to get back to a championship level, to get through the Western Conference and to beat the top team that comes out of the East, I think they need to add one more piece to this puzzle. A veteran wing, some type of player who can defend, who can step in and be a contributor to this team this season and try to extend that championship dynasty at least one more year.